Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you again for thank you for your support. Let me thank Contractor for sharing my last video, and Anubis as well for sharing it. The video in which the mean old man praises and encourages the young bloods for not approaching these Western niches. I've asked that you guys hit the share button, and you guys did. Thank you. Ramadan is working out lately to be, first day was fairly easy, but then again, it wasn't a work day. This one's going to be brief. This is, as you see in the title, about the foolishness of Kendra G's clapback against Corey Holcomb. Now, granted, Kendra G has the right to say that she was answering Tamara's questions and explaining certain phenomena from the standpoint of those that play these games or make these phenomena true. That's a valid point she made. But by the same token, the fact that Kendra G went up there with a wig on says enough. The things that Kendra G has said before say enough. Kendra G has this notion that no Negro is good enough for her, and she has her dad to back her up on that notion. Kendra G came from a mother and father household, and she still cheated on a responsible guy in college that knocked her up, and then she aborted. And she later on decided to not reunite with this boyfriend on whom she cheated that was giving her a second chance, because all he would have to do to win an argument would be to bring up that she was on her second chance. She said to her girls on her own, or somebody's panel, I forgot. She said, "That's an argument I can't win." She set that up herself. She did this. When she cheated on him, and although as a Muslim we recognize marriage and not fornication, the point is that by her own standards, and this is what I want many people to realize, when I'm talking about these things, I am talking about by the standards of those that are participating, this is wrong. So I don't apologize for pointing this out. By her own standards, this is low down, nasty, filthy, stank, funky. When Corey Holcomb demystified her with that big old 8 head she got, she decided to try to put him in his place and get him told. And the fact that she tried to do so politely doesn't really change what the hell we listened to, what we heard. She's still trying to mommy him or to son him to get him told, because that's what sisters do. And they brag about that. That's funny to them. Girl, I told. Malcolm wrote about this in his book. He took issue with the very nature of women because he assumed that this obsession with dissing and telling men off was their nature. It's not their nature. I remember a girl, first name Cheyenne, I won't say her last name, in middle school, who said to another girl, "Tell this boy, ain't it in our nature to punch dudes in they thing?" And the other girl nodded her head. And I remember thinking, why does dad want me to date and have girlfriends if this is how these broads see it? My dad didn't know how bad these women had gotten. And I thank God for my mom in this regard, because there was a point in time, I think when, maybe when I was younger, there was a point in time when my dad may have wondered what the hell's wrong with his son. And my mom probably said, no, senior, there's some nasty B words out here. And she didn't want to tell me that because she didn't want me to become a misogynist, and that had its advantages and disadvantages. But I suspect that she told Dad. And that sort of eased his mind as to why I was single most of the time. He and I have lived two different realities. He's been more select, and he came up at a time when they weren't doing, or they weren't as openly bragging about the dumb stuff they do now. And he had it rough. But then Kendra G decided to take it to one of the dumbest things that she could have. What did she decide to say? She decided to bring up how Corey flirted with her as a comedian, by the way. And proceeded to say, no, never. I get what anybody but you. I dated another woman before I date you. I date a dog or a horse, or this is some middle school stuff. This is the stuff that chicks used to say back in middle school just to put dudes down. And they would always say this stuff first to a few guys. And since it was something they only said to a few guys, everybody else would say, ooh, she put him down, she cut him down. And they got this positive feedback, and then they started to use it more often, and now they've overused it. They do this to every guy. So you must understand that when a Western sister sits up and says that any other option is better than you, that means nothing. It's the equivalent of you being in kindergarten. You don't know how to roast somebody you can't stand, so you just keep saying, you're stupid, you're stupid. That's the same thing. The issue is that, as I've stated before, and this is one reason why men should not be making approaches, these broads now are out here trying to make every guy feel like they're the last option. For Western women to sit up and say that they would date another woman, first, it's not really saying much. All they're really saying is you're just not as much of a man as these studs are. That's it. And then the other thing that these women are trying to get is for you all to think that you got this, not only a negative value as a guy, but that every other guy actually has a neutral value. You have a negative value, and you got to catch up with them. Meanwhile, they got them trying to think the same. They're trying to get these other guys to think the same thing. Just to be difficult. It's not about being chaste. It's not about limiting themselves to their husbands. It's not about any of these things that are moral. It is about, simply put, the psychological games on you and what it does and what it teaches you. Keep you trying too hard in exchange for too little. Corey Holcomb, she wants to sit up and say, you ain't getting none. Corey Holcomb's getting some, and that's fornication, but by her standards, he's winning. By his standards, he's winning. She's the one who only got a second shot from a guy that liked her years ago, but she cheated, so he gave her a second try, and she had to pretty much say never mind and risk being alone, which is what she has to be, because she knew that if she screwed up, he could turn around and say the same thing again to her. You cheated on me and got pregnant and deleted that baby. I didn't cheat on you. You did cheat on me. And she said I couldn't win that argument. So I said, never mind. And it's not lost on me that she decided to try to belittle him for being a YouTuber when she's a YouTuber. She has shown, in a nutshell, she's shown in a nutshell what is wrong with the Westernisha and what is specifically wrong with the Western Sapphire. She acts as if men are about to sit up here and start fighting over some 40-year-old, 45-year-old genitals, peace leave. She acts as if men have not set the tone and sent the message to these women that based on her age and then her attitude independently of each other, which she has the nerve to combine together, she's only good for one thing, and a relationship is not one of them. She acts as if everybody cannot see that she actually did hate on Kevin Samuels at first and then proceeded to carbon copy him. That's how she acts. She criticized him, and now she makes a living off of the pattern that he started. Now, there's some other men that have done this. They dress up. Black Guru's one of them. They'll tell you that's what they're doing, though. Darwin McPherson is another one, but they'll tell you that's what they're doing. They give Kevin his flowers and his credit. She wanted to criticize him and then turn around and do the exact same thing. You know, they've lost their ability to come with anything new. And I'm looking forward to whatever the hell he says to come back at her later on. I guess it's going to be next week. I think I've heard that the show is weekly. And he's not even looking for serious relationships, which is something she cannot get. But in the end, what's going to wind up being the case is that if he chooses, if he doesn't have anything better to talk about, or he just has time to deal with her, he's going to really roast the hell out of her. She's going back and forth with not only a comedian, but an experienced comedian. That is not her forte. And she's sitting up thinking, she, like many other sisters, I'm only talking about her because of what it is that is common across the board with the Sapphires, and she's just a part of it. She's a reflection of the Sapphires. She sits up here thinking that she's cooking this dude and her electricity's been off the whole time. She thought she cooked him, but she ain't paid her gas bill and it's been off. Meanwhile, he about to roast her, then grill her, and maybe deep fry her after that. Because he flirted during an interview as a comedian, which is something he's done with other women. This is right after she sat up and said that she doesn't listen to what anybody says, and she actually doesn't watch any shows except her own to see how to make her shows better. But she watched this apparently. So one of the things, though, is that we should pay attention, not because we're kids and this is entertainment or because we have the mindset of kids, but we should pay attention to these things only so that we understand the mass psychosis with which we're dealing and why it is that we need to tell these young brothers, don't make approaches. Don't try. They'll never respect you. You have to stay away from them. It's okay that she set up and said, okay, you know what? I was answering questions that a host was answering. I was answering the questions from the standpoint of those who might play these games. That was fine. She was right. But all the other stuff was just weak. I'm not saying this because I like or hate Corey. I don't get enough time to watch any one particular person again and again and again or to follow anybody else. I'm trying to teach a bunch of stubborn ass Bedouin males how to improve the English they do know so that they can actually fix their English in time enough to pass some exams they got to pass. Yet and still, even these are things I know. But this is a pattern. This is a part of a pattern, and you need to pay attention. And this is how you will be able to tell these young brothers as well, the ones that are still kids, listen, this is why you cannot go around here trying to make approaches. You're not wrong because you like women. We were designed that way. They were designed to like us too. But you would still be messing around here making a really bad mistake if you go trying to approach them here in the West where we live, young blood. They're simply never going to treat you well. They're never even going to respect you. And the more effort you make, the less they respect you. And they're going to start off, when you don't make any effort, they're going to start off with you sassy, you zesty, and you 9AY. And then they just lose more respect for you from there for making the effort. So there's nothing you can do that's going to be right in their eyes. Even Danica Marie said that Kendra G is sitting up here keeping women single. Now Kendra G sitting up here arguing with comedians, which is something people know not to do. Not only that, but a comedian who sits up and turns down roles and then does his live shows and they sell out. She's sitting up here trying to take clips from when they were friendlier and he was flirting, which is something he did across the board, just to say, no, my answer is no. Well, I mean, you're a woman and you bought your titties. And I'm saying this as a guy that likes titties, but you bought your titties and you got a lot of makeup on and you're exposed to the public and people know who you are. You're kind of famous. So of course you're going to say no. You're going to say no to most guys. That's part of why he said that he knows that women that are struggling are the ones that are going to stick around. This is known. You're hypergamous. You are ridiculously hypergamous. Your dad has already ruined it for you to the point that if a man's on your level, you'd still see him as below you. You have this notion that no Negroes are good enough for you. And when women sit up and say, well, listen, Jet Black, why are you always making it about dating? Well, the reason is that when you are not sexually attracted to a man, he's not good for anything else except to be used in ways you would not want somebody using you. So it's really about how you feel about how sexually attracted you are to a man and how less human you see him in every other way because you don't want the ding-a-ling and you don't want most men's ding-a-ling, which is okay. That's why you pay attention to stuff like this. I hope that what I've said helps you out. Thank you so much for listening again. As always, Black Heart, Black Mind, Black Out, Assalamu Alaikum, and Black heterosexual, non-select male power because they don't like it. Black patriarchy until extinction of Judgment Day. And thank you for flying with us again here on Jet Black Airways, where the phrase Jet Black's also a verb. Keep jetting black with us till the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender justice forever.